in the barren and unforgiving wasteland that is Anjikuni Lake in the Canadian province of Nunavut. Something strange happened back in November 1930. A lone trapper stumbled upon a discovery that shook him to his core. What he found was an entire village, a whole community of people who had literally vanished into thin air overnight. No trace, no sign, no bodies, nothing. So what exactly happened to them? And why has this case remained unsolved nearly a century later? This is the mysterious and unsettling story of Canada's lost village. Anjikuni Lake is one of those places that seems almost otherworldly, located deep within the desolate and frozen wilderness of northern Canada. The nearest big city is Ottawa, over 1,600 miles away. Back in 1930, this area was extremely remote, very rarely visited by outsiders, and pretty much unknown to the rest of the world. It was the perfect place for an entire group of people to disappear without a single soul ever knowing. In the early part of the 20th century, the land around Anjikuni Lake was inhabited by a small community of Inuit people, an indigenous group of Canadian Arctic dwellers, who were known for their incredible ability to survive in some of the harshest conditions on Earth. They built small huts made out of the bones and skins of animals. They hunted and lived a traditional nomadic lifestyle. Joe Labelle was a seasoned trapper who had spent many years exploring the vast and frozen wastelands of northern Canada. He had heard tales of the Inuit people and their mysterious ways and was eager to learn more about their unique culture and traditions. That's why when Labelle arrived at their village one day in November 1930, seeking shelter from the harsh and unforgiving elements, he was shocked to find it completely deserted. The huts were still standing, the fires were still burning, and the food was still cooking over the flames. It was as if the inhabitants had simply vanished into thin air, leaving everything behind in such a hurry that they didn't even have time to grab their personal belongings. The doors to the huts were wide open, and scattered around the village were items of clothing, tools, and weapons, including several rifles. All this would be considered strange enough, but it was what Labelle found next that truly terrified him. He noticed that the dogs were frozen to death and were still tied up beside the houses. It was clear that they had been there for only a short period of time before they died. The scene was both heartbreaking and disturbing. It was evident that the villagers had not abandoned their faithful companions. But what could have caused such a sudden and unexpected mass death? As Labelle continued his investigation, he noticed strange details that defied explanation. For example, the footprints leading away from the village stopped abruptly at the edge of the lake, as if the villagers had simply walked off the face of the earth. There were no signs of panic or struggle, no blood, no weapons, no indication of an attack or a fight. And perhaps most puzzling of all, there was no indication that the villagers had evacuated the settlement or migrated to a new location. It was as though they had simply disappeared into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a handful of personal belongings and unanswered questions. Faced with this bizarre and unsettling scenario, Labelle knew that he had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary and decided to contact the authorities. Upon hearing this unbelievable tale, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, also known as the RCMP, were skeptical but intrigued enough to send a team to investigate. They dispatched Mounties, a sergeant named Arthur Smith and a constable named S.J. Morehouse, Q.N. Lake, to gather more information about the missing village. What they found was a scene of utter devastation. The village was indeed deserted, and the few remaining clues suggested a mysterious and sudden disappearance of its residents. However, the RCMP's official report downplayed the significance of the discovery and dismissed the story as either a hoax or an exaggeration. According to the report, the sergeant spoke to a Joe Labelle, a half-breed trapper who claimed to have found the deserted village. Labelle described how he had seen the frozen dogs, half-cooked meals, and abandoned equipment, and how he had followed footprints into the lake, and they just disappeared. He said that he believed the people had gone down through a hole in the ice, suggesting a natural cause for their disappearance. The sergeant interviewed several other people in the area, including some who had traded with the missing villagers. They corroborated Labelle's story and provided more details about the community, describing them as an independent and suspicious lot who rarely interacted with outsiders. Despite the intriguing details in the RCMP's official report from 1930, there are several reasons why some researchers remain unconvinced about the validity of the Anjikuni mystery. Firstly, there are no official documents or records to support the full story. The only written account comes from the sergeant's report, and it does not provide a complete picture of the events. Many important details and witness statements were never officially documented, which leaves room for skepticism and speculation. Secondly, the story has been the subject of much controversy and debate over the years. Some researchers believe that the entire story was fabricated or distorted, while others argue that it was intentionally covered up by the government or other powerful entities. This conflicting information makes it difficult to separate fact from fiction and adds to the confusion surrounding the case. Finally, despite extensive searches of the area, no human remains or other physical evidence has ever been found, which raises questions about the validity of the sergeant's conclusion that the villagers had perished in a natural disaster. The lack of physical evidence and the absence of official documentation make it challenging to accept the story as fact. One popular theory is that the disappearance was caused by natural factors such as extreme weather conditions or seasonal migration patterns. Opponents of this view argue that the harsh climate of the region, which is characterized by freezing temperatures, blizzards, and limited access to food resources, could have contributed to the demise of the village. Alternatively, it is possible that the Inuit community may have embarked on a migration journey to a new hunting ground, as it was common for them to travel long distances in search of food and resources. It is conceivable that the villagers may have encountered a sudden blizzard that disoriented them, causing them to become lost and perish in the unforgiving wilderness. Another theory suggests that the disappearance was the result of mass hysteria or a shared psychotic episode among the villagers. This perspective posits that the community may have experienced a collective delusion or a mass psychogenic illness that led to their bizarre behavior and subsequent demise. Some researchers have explored the possibility that the villagers may have been exposed to toxic substances or toxins produced by microorganisms, which could have induced hallucinations, altered their perception of reality, and ultimately resulted in their demise. Some have even suggested that the disappearance was caused by supernatural forces beyond our understanding. One such theory proposes that the villagers were abducted by extraterrestrials who came to study or experiment on them. This idea is supported by the alleged presence of strange lights and objects in the sky, witnessed by some locals around the time of the disappearance. Other theories suggest that the villagers may have disappeared into a parallel dimension or a different realm of existence, which is accessible through certain areas of Anjikuni Lake. Adding to the intrigue surrounding the case, some researchers believe that the RCMP deliberately covered up the truth about the Anjikuni incident and classified the case as a hoax to prevent panic and maintain order in the region. According to this theory, the government may have known more about the case than they revealed, but chose to keep it a secret for strategic reasons. It is speculated that the government may have been concerned that widespread knowledge of the event could lead to mass hysteria, economic disruption, or social unrest. By classifying the case as a hoax, the authorities could effectively dismiss the incident and minimize any potential negative consequences. Over the years, the Insanola case has captured the attention of paranormal investigators, UFO enthusiasts, and those fascinated by unsolved mysteries. It has been featured in numerous books, documentaries, and television shows, further cementing its place in popular culture. Despite numerous investigations and theories, the case remains officially unsolved, and the true fate of the village is still unknown. The lack of concrete answers and the remote location of the incident have allowed speculation and rumors to persist, keeping the mystery alive. Whether you believe in alien abductions, parallel dimensions, or simply the harsh realities of survival in a frozen wasteland, the Anjikuni case remains one of the most chilling and enigmatic disappearance stories in Canadian history. As we ponder the possible fates of those who vanished from the village, we are left with more questions than answers and a sense of unease that lingers long after the final clue has been examined. So, what do you think happened to the people of Anjikuni? Was it nature or something beyond our understanding? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.